It has been a while since we have made a video, but that is not to say there's nothing to talk about. There are a list of topics that I have that I will eventually get to. Some are important, some are interesting. Today, I think it's important to talk about the disclosure process. And when I talk about disclosure, I'm talking about all of the secrets and hidden information that has been kept from society. Now we can get into the extraterrestrial stuff. We can get into, corporate secrets. We can get into ancient secrets. We can get into, censored information, repressed information, magical secrets, ascension secrets. We can get into the weather weapons. All of that I lump into the disclosure. We can get into the synthetic humans. There's a lot of stuff that, belongs in the alternative discussion, and the alternative people are very interested in holding on to this stuff. What happened on the moon. And there's this sense that there's going to be one day, there's always been this sense that there's going to be one day where, because most people are programmed biblically. And biblical stuff, we're talking thousands of years ago, 3,000 years ago, the biblical scripture spoke of things as the days of judgment and atonement, and when the world will be wiped clean. And, they use these really fancy terms in thousands of years ago. And we have to understand that those terms do not apply to the modern day. I think it should be very clear, even if you use the example of 2012, December 21, 2012 is the end date, the day of Quetzalcoatl and all of this stuff. And it was a day of awakening, of ascension, and whatever they created, whatever we put ourselves into that date in order to resolve all our life's problems. That's the human condition. Don't think it's the other guy. Everyone thinks there's going to be a magical day, a lottery. I'm only one lottery ticket away from fixing my life. And that thinking does not work when it comes to disclosure, because disclosure is an ongoing process. It works in conjunction with human evolution, human awakening. And it works in conjunction with the collective. I am not an individual, and I don't deserve all this knowledge, because this knowledge will affect us all. It's a collective, okay? We are part of a greater consciousness. And that's not just the earth. Then we go to the greater consciousness of the higher beings and of this solar system, of this universe, of this galaxy. For me to say I deserve to know the truth, who am I? What makes me so special? And can I hold all that truth? But most people are waiting. We're waiting. We're working hard. We're waiting that one day we will be proven right. I was like that. I'm not like that now. I think in the beginning, 10 years ago, 13 or 14 years ago, this will come out, because I was told this will come out, and there's going to be another disclosure. Just wait. There's a meeting, and there are going to be ships, and the governments are making an agreement, and all of this stuff is just on and on. And at some point, early on, I just said, forget it. But most people, they shut off, they turn off, right? If you say every month this is going to be it, and then you go out and tell people about aliens and weather weapons and the moon landing, bases on the moon, and then when the deadline comes, nothing happens, you look like an idiot, right? You look like a moron. Just wait. And then 6 months later, they do it again. They, meaning the cabal, these psychological operatives. The operatives, that's what they do. They go through their conduits and their people, and they create this expectation, this paranoia. They create this hope. They prey on people. And the next 6 months later, you say, no, this is going to be this when the gate, the Stargate opens, and this is when the ancient Egyptians did this, and this is when the cycle of the planets do that. And then nothing happens. 6 months later, now there's another prophecy. There's a scripture said, and then people start looking, scriptures, this rock, it has turned. Once the rock turns, it's the sign of the Great Awakening, right? The end of the Yuga, and on. So let's just on and on. There's this prophecy, that prophecy. The Pleiadians told me the Pleiadians are coming, and the Pleiadians will awaken the world. And the Pleiadians are crap. They're just crap. Enough about them. But it kind of reminds me of, there's a person, let's just use an analogy. There's a person, and they're nice, they're good looking, they're a good-hearted person, and they want to be loved, but nobody loves them, and they don't feel anybody loves them, so they want to be loved. So somebody says, you're talented, you're good looking, why don't you become an actor? Yeah. You know what? People will love you. They love you. They will love you on a stage, in a movie. Let's get in a movie, right? Be an actor. And it's like, yeah. So the guy or the girl, they do a little show, or they get on a show, or they get a small part, and everybody says, yeah, you were great. And the person thinks they love me when I'm on a stage, when I'm in front of a camera. Everybody loves me, and I feel loved. So then you say, hey, you should audition for that show, and then they start auditioning, and then they change their career. I want to be an actor, a singer. I want to be an actor. I want to be a singer, because I want to be loved. Inside, I want to be loved, because they don't love themselves. So they go out and they try, and people think, well, it's one shot in a million to be a celebrity. Let's just face the facts. There's 10 million actors, and there's 100 celebrities. It's like the lottery. Now, I'm not discouraging actors. I'm just saying, as an analogy, the person wants to be loved. And they audition, and they don't get the part. And they audition, they don't get the part. Then, they get discouraged. And someone says, keep at it. Keep at it. It'll come. It'll come. And, they're living on poverty, and they don't have any friends, and they're not loved. Then they audition, and they get a small part. And they're like, oh, finally, this might be my break. And then the show gets canceled. Now they're depressed again, and they're down in the dumps, and they need some money, and they audition for a commercial. They get a commercial. Oh, okay. There's hope. There's hope. I'm going to show you people someday. I will show you. I will become famous. Because now you're fully, I have no backup plan. You're fully invested. Right? You're fully invested in this thing. And you've seen you're following all these people who they had no backup plan, and they had tried hard, and they eventually became famous. Those are your mentors. Those are your teachers. If they can do it, I can do it. And this goes on, so this process, let's say, goes on for 25 years, right? You're chasing the dream, 25 years. Now you've had a few small parts. You had an interview on a TV program. You dabbled in singing a little bit, and so you get a little attention. You may have done a play, and you feel that love. You got some commercials, so you got a couple of commercials on your back. You've done some modeling. You got a resume. 25 years later, you've done a bunch of stuff. You've had to work a lot of part-time jobs, but you're not famous. You're just a struggling actor. And that is the situation with this disclosure process. There's no big disclosure. There never has been a day which has been promised many times, where the ships will come and the ships will land and the Pleiadians will come out and the Nordics will come, you know. But along the way, we've had all kinds of little breaks, you know, whistleblowers, the secret space programs come out, the fake moon landings has come out, you know, the Roswell and Area 51 and the ancient ruins on Mars and Pluto, you know, little drips, like the struggling actor. I got a little bit of part. I got a call back. I got a call back here, got a call back. I met a few important people. One day they'll love me. One day there'll be a disclosure. And then we will prove to everybody. And 25 years later, so you start it when you're 21 and you chase the dream. And 25, you're now 46 years old. You're a good actor. Let's say you're a good actor. The best. You can convey all the emotions. You know the stage, you know the TV and movie, but you're not a celebrity, you're not famous, you can't even sustain a living. You'll make a little bit of money, but you have to have a job. Okay? So you're 46 now. Now you're middle-aged. I'm not discouraging pursuing that career. I'm saying that we need to move away from this expectation of a giant disclosure. You know, right now it's the secret space program. Well, I don't think the back-engineered ships are going to come out. They're there, but there's no interest in them for them to land and to prove to everybody anything. There's no benefit to thousands and thousands of people and decades of secrecy. And for them to come out with all this advanced technology that they have. There's no benefit. And if they did that, it would be chaos. It would cause major disruption in the economy, in spirituality, in the government and the military. And if that were to take place, if someone were to take that action to make a major reveal, some other party would launch some kind of attack or war or catastrophe. We're all in this together. So that's not going to happen. I'm saying it's not going to happen. And history is on my side. History says the big day will not happen. Now, the good news is the disclosure process is happening. It's an ongoing process. It's the unfolding of all of these secrets. And it's the awakening of the human spirit. That is happening. And if we continue to move along and push, that will continue to happen. We don't need anything dramatic and over the top and theatrical. We don't need big ships to appear. That won't happen. Because that's not the way disclosure happens. Disclosure happens is an unfolding process. And you see the effects if you start to pay attention. So let me give you one example of many. I've talked about many examples, like, things like the smartphone. That is an advanced technology. That's a 23rd century phone. Right? We went from the flip phone to the smartphone. That was a part of the disclosure. Stem cells. Stem cells, where do they come from? That's part of disclosure. That's part of these advanced races inputting into society. It doesn't come with the stamp that says, aliens are helping us. Because that would defeat the human spirit in a way. Like, oh, they're helping us. Well, why don't they show up? But if you don't know, then you just say, oh, this is good, this is good. Everyone's using a smartphone. It doesn't have to be alien inspired. People just accept it, right? But most people don't understand that's part of the disclosure. We went from no mobile phone to the brick phone to a flip phone to a smartphone. That now we got streaming movies online. I went from a 3-channel black and white television to a multi-channel video download anywhere I want, wireless. That is called disclosure. That is called that evolution, the technological disclosure. But let's talk about the other stuff. Let's talk about aliens. Because it does bother me that when I started out, the alien was, he was looking for genetic material. He was an evil gray. He was a space monster with tentacles. And you had Alien, the movie, Predator, Independence Day. There's going to be an alien invasion. Has there been an alien invasion? Has there been an alien invasion? That's all the programming. That's the cabal. Remember the cabal? They set up these psychological operations to disconnect you from the truth. The extraterrestrial truth, they create these space monsters. So that was in the 80s and the 90s. What's happened since? Well, let's look at the comic books. Comic books started, 40, 50 years ago? I'm not a comic book expert, but let's say 50 years ago, people started writing these crazy comics for kids, right? People in space, aliens, space weapons, spaceships, superpowers, hybrids, genetic modification, reincarnation, multi-dimensions, magic, blasters, armor, godlike beings in the comics. let's say 50 years ago. What's happened today? Today we have movies that have aliens, spaceships, space blasters, superpowers, hybrids, genetic engineering, time travel, warp drives, shields, teleportation, right? Today, in the superhero movies, they're godlike beings. The aliens now, if we won't even call them alien, it's a dumb term. They're people from other planets. Stellans, I call them Stellans. If you look at the movie, there are all kinds of Stellans, all kinds of star beings, right? Stellans from a different planet. They have a different culture. They have a different history. They have a different kind of ship. Now you think that the skeptic says, well, that's in the movies. But I don't think that way. Because we've taken the comic book from the page, from a two-dimensional page, and now they went to the animation, right? Two-dimensional animation. And now they've become a three-dimensional incarnation. And our heroes, our mentors today are these characters. Comic book characters, superheroes. There are many TV series that have comic book superheroes. There are TV series that have gifted children with superpowers that have been, they're mutants. That's called genetic engineering, right? Right? Aliens are extraterrestrials, right? Avatar. Have you seen the movie Avatar? The Na'vi. We used to call them space monsters. Now we call them Na'vi. They're people on another planet. We root for them. We cheer. And that's the other funny thing about all of this, is that no one's disbelieving any of this stuff. Look at it, there's a giant spaceship, there's a war between two different planets, people are going through stargates and time travel. No one is saying that's stupid, that's not possible. Now when I was growing up, that's what they would say, that's dumb, that doesn't exist. The generation of today is not saying that. Recently, they've introduced magic. There are magicians. Magic into the superhero world. There's magic. People with magic. There are TV shows with children who have magical powers. Now, it used to be connected to satanic stuff, but now it's just magic. It's just a superpower of magic. People, what that says is, when there's a demand for this stuff and when people are not afraid of this stuff, it means that people are open to it. And that we can even extend that to say people believe in this stuff. But you can't really talk about it. We're not at that point where we can talk about it openly in public. But that's coming, right? It's that disclosure, it's the unfolding process. So we see evidence. What I'm saying is we have made many achievements over the decades. Not one day. Over the decades, we have made many achievements. And we are at this point now where we can see the stuff of our dreams on a movie screen, on a television screen, on a mobile screen, in a book. There's all kinds of information is being processed. Some of it has truth connected to it and some of it does not. I mean, I'm not saying It's all true. What I'm saying is, magic as something substantial is being shown. That magic itself is true. Now, how it is done, well, that's an argument, right? Multi-dimensions. Well, there are multiple dimensions. How they act and how we interact with them, that can be a discussion. But now we have that door is open, right? That door to our awareness is open. We have magic, we have multiple dimensions. We have other worlds, we have other races and other worlds. We have people with blue skin and green skin, and some people are invisible, and some people are godlike. We have that discussion. That's called a disclosure process. Because all of these steps must precede our eventual interaction with any advanced being. We cannot meet in it. We cannot understand an advanced being. In fact, they won't show up if we don't understand it. Now, if we're being educated through these media, as one example, I'm just giving you one example. Okay, this is through the media. If we're being, acclimated to what's really going on, when some advanced being does show up, we will be able to understand it. We will be able to understand them. We will be able to interact with them. And that's when we have something. Because right now, we're not able to do that. And 10 years ago, we were not completely unable to do that. And 30 years ago, we were not able to do that. In society, it always used to be there's a certain class of individuals who were chosen to interact. These became the spiritual masters, right? If you look at the biblical text, the book of Enoch, Enoch was taken to other dimensions, was taken aboard ships, and he interacted with these godlike beings. But it wasn't the whole town, it wasn't the whole village. It's one person, an individual. He became a spiritual teacher because he would interact with these advanced beings because he was chosen as someone who can handle this information. Now, today, if you interact with these beings, they don't respect you or consider you a spiritual master. They consider you a lunatic and crazy. It used to be, 3,000 years ago, if the godlike beings chose you and taught you secrets of the universe and you came back to teach people, people would respect you and call you a spiritual teacher, and there'd be a book written about you, and today we would worship those people. Moses. People worship Moses. Well, what do you think he got his knowledge from? Later on, those people who were educated became scientists. Today, those people who are educated are called crazy people, right? There's a complete disconnect from what's going on. What's always remained is some class like magicians and the shamans. The shamans have always been connected, the medicine people. They've been connected to that sacred knowledge, right? The higher knowledge, the knowledge from other dimensions and other beings. And the shamans would obtain that knowledge and bring it into society. Shamanism is not an urban thing, although it has resurfaced, right? So those things, those conduits of knowledge have always been there. But on a larger scale, we're starting to see that in media, for example. They're talking about, regeneration, reincarnation, time travel, all the stuff that the shamans have been talking about for years, right? So the disclosure is a process, and it's been happening, and it's an ongoing process. And it's happening on a larger scale. And I think we are gearing up. We're coalescing. Things are going to start to wind down in terms of concretization. And the more we are ready, the more that can happen. The more reluctant we are, the slower things go. And a lot of the time, if anybody's gone through the ascension process, you know that in order to accept new knowledge, you have to let go of old knowledge. You have to detach yourself. You have to grow as a spiritual person. Otherwise, you can't ascend. And that's not easy for most people, to let go of their beliefs, their programming, their fears, and to grow spiritually. But that's a requirement for the disclosure process, because you were getting all this information. I got to let go of the old stuff. I got to release it. I got to detach from it. It's gone. And then we're getting into new territory. And it's scary, the new territory, because we don't know what's up there. So the disclosure process is forcing us to evolve, not just knowledge, but spiritually. And if you're on the forefront, pay attention to that you need to look at your belief systems. You need to move forward. And it's not easy, and it looks kind of murky, but we have to let go. Let go. You have to just let go of that stuff, and then you have to embrace. You need to replace that old knowledge with the new knowledge. Right? This idea of God. We have to kind of replace it with this new stuff. And the more we can do that, the more we all start to move forward. That's not saying you have to believe everything and you have to worship these people and the whistleblowers. That's not the point. Process your information, get all your facts, and move forward. Magic, let's say magic. Well, maybe you don't understand magic, but let's say I accept the idea of magic. I accept the idea that there are races on other planets, right? That's a challenge for most people. Even though you don't have all the information, you can see that avenue, that area of knowledge, it opens up. And the more we do that, the more disclosure happens, the faster it happens. The more we can handle, the more we get.